Have you ever noticed that one person in your life who almost never gets angry? Not never angry in a fake, smiling through the pain way, but genuinely calm. The kind of person who spills coffee on their shirt, shrugs, and says, it happens. Or the one who gets cut off in traffic and just keeps driving. Meanwhile, your blood pressure is doing parkour. You look at them and think, how are you not mad right now? Are you secretly a monk? Or are you just bottling everything up and planning a dramatic emotional explosion later? Most of us grow up with a pretty simple story about anger. If you don't get angry, you must be weak, or passive, or emotionally disconnected, maybe even a little fake. Anger, we're told, is strength. It's honesty. It's proof that you care. So when someone rarely gets angry, our brains don't quite know where to place them. But psychology tells a much more interesting story, one that's less about suppression and more about how the mind learns to interpret the world. Let me paint a familiar scene. Someone criticizes you unfairly. Your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up, your inner voice starts drafting a 10-paragraph rebuttal complete with footnotes. Now, imagine that same moment happening to someone who rarely gets angry. They hear the criticism, they pause, and instead of their thoughts lighting up like a fireworks show, there's space. Not because they didn't notice the insult, but because their brain processed it differently. Same event, completely different internal movie. Anger, at its core, isn't really about what happens to us. It's about how our brain evaluates what happens to us. Psychologists call this appraisal, your brain's instant judgment about whether something is a threat, an injustice, or a violation of your boundaries. For people who get angry easily, that appraisal system is set to high sensitivity. It's like a smoke alarm that goes off every time you make toast. But for people who rarely get angry, that system is tuned differently. Their brain is less likely to label events as personal attacks or emergencies. That doesn't mean they don't feel emotions deeply. In fact, many of them feel things very deeply. The difference is that their emotional response doesn't automatically default to anger. Their brain has learned, often through experience, that not every frustration needs a fight response. Think of it like emotional economy. They're selective about what they spend their energy on. Anger is expensive. It takes focus, hormones, recovery time. So their mind asks, almost subconsciously, is this worth it? A lot of this starts with how someone learned to regulate emotions early in life. If you grew up in an environment where anger made things worse, where it escalated conflict, caused damage, or simply didn't work, you may have learned that calmness was safer and more effective. Over time, your nervous system adapts. Your brain becomes skilled at hitting the pause button. Neuroscientists talk about the prefrontal cortex here, the part of your brain involved in reasoning and impulse control. In people who rarely get angry, this area tends to step in quickly, like a wise friend putting a hand on your shoulder and saying, "Let's think for a second." There's also something quietly powerful going on with expectations. People who don't get angry easily often don't expect the world or other people to behave perfectly. They assume mistakes will happen. They assume people will disappoint them sometimes. And when expectations are realistic, frustration has less room to grow. Imagine going to the beach and being furious that there's sand everywhere. Sounds ridiculous, right? That's how some calm people see everyday annoyances. Traffic, delays, rude comments. It's just sand at the beach of life. Another big factor is identity. People who rarely get angry often don't fuse their ego to every situation. If someone disagrees with them, it doesn't automatically mean they're attacking who I am. If something goes wrong, it doesn't instantly become I've failed as a person. Their sense of self is a little more flexible, a little less brittle. And when your identity isn't constantly under threat, anger has much less fuel. This is where a lot of misunderstandings happen. From the outside, calm people can look detached, unbothered, even indifferent. But internally, many of them are doing a lot of processing. They're noticing sensations, thoughts, emotions, but they're not letting those things grab the steering wheel. It's the difference between feeling a wave and being dragged out to sea by it. You can feel the wave, you just don't have to drown in it. There's also an interesting link between low anger and perspective taking. People who rarely get angry are often very good at imagining what's going on in someone else's head, not excusing bad behavior, but contextualizing it. They're stressed, they didn't sleep, they're acting from fear. When your brain fills in these explanations, anger loses its sharp edge. It's hard to stay furious at someone when you see their behavior as a symptom rather than a personal attack. Of course, this doesn't mean these people never feel anger. They do. But when they do feel it, it tends to be quieter, slower, and more deliberate. Instead of exploding, it simmers. Instead of shouting, it clarifies. They're more likely to use anger as information rather than ammunition. What boundary was crossed? What value was touched? What actually needs to change here? There's a philosophical layer to this too. Many people who rarely get angry have, consciously or not, accepted a certain truth about control. They understand deep in their bones that they can't control everything, not other people's moods, not random inconveniences, not life's timing. And when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, anger has far fewer places to attach itself. It's like trying to punch fog. Eventually, you realize it's exhausting and pointless. But let's be honest, being someone who rarely gets angry isn't always easy. Calm people are often misunderstood. Others may project onto them. You don't care enough. Why aren't you mad? Are you even human? There's pressure to perform anger just to prove you're engaged. And sometimes people who are calm end up carrying more than they should because the world assumes they can handle it. There's also a shadow side worth mentioning. Some people appear calm because they learn to suppress anger, not process it. That's different. Suppression is when anger goes underground and leaks out as tension, exhaustion, or sudden emotional crashes. Healthy, low-anger people aren't numb. They're aware. They let themselves feel irritation, disappointment, even rage, but they don't let it run the show. If you're watching this and thinking, that sounds like me, there's something important to remember. Your calmness isn't a flaw, it's a skill. A nervous system that knows how to downshift, a mind that doesn't panic at every red light. In a world that often rewards outrage and volume, quiet regulation is almost a superpower. And if you're on the other side, if you get angry easily and wonder what these people have that you don't, this isn't about personality destiny, it's about patterns. Brains are plastic, they learn from repetition. The more you practice pausing, reframing, and questioning your first reaction, the more your emotional responses change. Calm isn't something you're born with or without. It's something you build. Think of anger like fire. Fire can cook your food, keep you warm, light your way, or it can burn down the house. People who rarely get angry haven't extinguished their fire. They've learned how to contain it, how to use it intentionally, how not to let it spread everywhere. So, the next time you meet someone who stays calm when everyone else is losing it, don't assume they're passive or detached. There's a good chance you're looking at a brain that has learned something profound about energy, control, and meaning. And maybe, just maybe, there's something there worth learning. If this resonated with you, take a moment to sit with it. Notice your own patterns. When does anger show up for you? And what might it be trying to protect? If you want to keep exploring the psychology behind everyday behaviors like this, you know where to find me. Stay curious.